Here I am using a completely blank worksheet that I saved. It's already saved. I call it personal budget example for video. You may save it as any way you want. And there are many different approaches to create your personal budget plan, and I'm just going to show you one of them. Notice that Excel and spreadsheet software works with the structure of columns and rows. And you can follow the structure very rigidly by putting just certain kinds of values on the row and certain kinds of values on the columns. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create little windows that separate some of the information. So the first one is going to be regarding our current accounts. So I'm just going to write here, current accounts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the cell where I wrote the title, and I'm going to go all the way to, let's use 3 columns here, and I'm going to give it a few other rows. So I'm just going to click on somewhere on the below here, C10, and press left click on the mouse, press shift on the keyboard, and then select here C10 and select all of these. And what I'm going to do is just create a border. I'm going to create a border. I go to border area here on the font, on the ribbon, and it gives me some options. So now there are different kinds of border. I'm going to use a thick outside border. So this thick outside border gives me the possibility, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go all the way on the bottom here so it's clearer. So this is current accounts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 3 cells, so I can select and then kind of drag. But notice that sometimes if you drag, you actually cover all the information. But if it's nothing, you can select all of the cells. And then I'm going to merge and center, just so it looks better. And then I am going to add information about my account. So let's say you have 2 banks, Bank of America, and in that bank you have $5,000. So you put $5,000, and you have another bank, let's say Chase or whatever, and let's say you have $3,000 in that bank. And if you have more, maybe you have a savings, let's say you have something like under bed, and maybe you have $1,000 there. And if you have other source of money, you may want to put it there too. So here there's kind of like extra rows here that I have, but I may not need. What you can do is you can right click on all the way on the end here, and actually can delete, and that will delete that whole row. Now notice that we won't be able to do that if there's all the information here on that row outside of our little box, but here I can do it, and I'll go back to this concept later. I'm also going to select these numbers here, and I'm going to format them so they look like money. I'm going to select the merged cells here. You can see that they're merged because by clicking on it, the 3 cells at the same time got highlighted. And I'm going to bolden these numbers just so they're a little bit easier to see. Now, I'm going to create another window here. I'm not really sure how much space I'm going to need, but I select A10, and then I shift on the keyboard, and then I select about 18, C18. I'm also going to create thick borders, so I just select the thick borders here. They should appear. On the middle, I'm going to write here monthly expenses. Monthly expenses. Same way, I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to merge, and it's going to center. I'm going to bolden this, and here I'm going to list my monthly expenses. So let's say we have rent, and then you have maybe a loan you may have to pay every month. You have maybe food expenditures, car expenditures, entertainment, whatever you have, you list here, and you list how much each is going to cost. So let's say your rent is maybe $1,000. You have loans you have to pay. Let's say school loans, you pay $100 every month. Food, maybe $400. Car maybe is $100. I'm sort of just making it up here. This is for monthly expenses. Entertainment's up to you. 200, other $100, whatever it may be. Let's say phone. I don't know if you're paying $100 on your phone. I hope not. I paid $20, but let's say you pay $50. And here what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to left click on the 18, and I'm going to create a new insert, create a new role. Just right click and go to new insert and insert a new row. And all I did that because I wanted to separate the total. So now I'm going to write total in the cell here, and on the cell on the right I'm going to actually add the total. So we're going to use some cell calculation. So now we're going to go into this formula bar over here. Now this formula bar is linked to this cell because I clicked on the cell first and then I went to the formula bar, and you can see it's linked to this cell because it's highlighted over here. And the first thing I'm going to write is the equal symbol, because the equal, you write the equal when you start to do some kind of function or formula. So before we didn't need to do that, but now we need to do it because we're going to do some formula. And the formula is I'm going to add all these values to see our total monthly expenditures. So I'm going to use my cell reference. So the cell reference is C12 plus C13 plus C14, etc. Now this is one way to do it, and if you did that, you would get a value. I only did 3, so it's only summing up these 3, but there's an easier way to do it, and that is by using the sum function. So you start typing the function name and it should start to appear, and like with any function, you're going to need to use the parentheses. And within the parentheses, you're going to add the values you want to sum. So here I want to sum C12 through C17. And the colon means through. So here it reads C12 through C17. And if you hit enter, you get your total monthly expenditures. Now, I didn't do it before, but I can do it now. I just select, not change anything, just selecting the cells, and then go formatting, change it to money. Now here I have my monthly expenses. Now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to create boxes for different periods of time so I can plan the kind of long term. And each of this box, so I'm going to select 3 columns and just a different number of rows, whatever really comes up, whatever seems practical here. I'm going to put borders. And then what I'm going to write here is something like June 2020 through 12/2020. So June through December, just half a year. I'm going to calculate how much I'm going to make and how much I'm going to have as expenses. Notice that we can also change the size of the columns. So if this seems a little too short or too long, you can change the size of the columns. Of course, if there's other stuff outside the box, they all get messed up, but that's okay. And here I'm going to write the gains and the expenses. I'm going to select all these 3. I'm not going to merge them like before, but I'm going to center them. And this is the center button here in the alignment. And I'm also going to bold them. Now here I'm going to write current CA. CA means current accounts, and this is going to be a total of what I have in my bank. So let's actually add a total line here too. Now, as I was saying before, notice that if you insert a row here, it's going to modify everything, the whole row for every other information you have in the sheet. So, but in this case, it didn't make a difference, so that's fine. And also notice that because when I entered a new row, all this information here got changed. So here before I had C12 through C17, and the computer figured out to add 1 to all of those because I added a new row in the path of it. So here I'm going to write same equals sum open parentheses, that's C5 through C7 close parentheses. That's it. So here it's kind of a gain is what we have. So I'm going to write, instead of writing the total, I'm just actually going to use cell reference. So I'm going to equals C9. Okay, so I didn't write 9,000 here, I wrote equals C9, so he grabbed the value from here. So if something changes here, it's going to update everything later on. Now, I'm going to write new income. So this is my income for this time period. Now, so this is 6 months period. June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That is 7 months. So let's say you make 3,000 per month. So there are different ways you can write it, but I'm going to write equals 3,000 times 7. And it's just going to translate to 21,000 for those 7 months. Keep the money sign. And then I'm going to also include my expenses. So month expenses. Now here, I'm going to use the value that we got here for 1 month. So let's say that's C20. So equals C20. And I'm going to multiply, and notice the multiplication is the little asterisk on top of the number 8 on the keyboard. So C20 times 7. And these are my expenses. Now, the way I wrote it here is positive. And what I'm going to do is everything in this column I want to make negative. So to do that, I need to add a parenthesis around all the value, the whole thing, and then put a minus in front of it. And if you see this, that means it didn't fit in the cell. But what happens is, generally the negative numbers will have a parenthesis around. That's some kind of a basic accounting practice. So negative numbers have parentheses around. And what you can also do is actually make it red. So it looks like it's more obvious that this is an expense. And then you may have new expenses. Like for example, in this period here, you may take a special trip. And that's going to cost you $2,000. So you're going to write equals negative 2,000. And you may also change it to red. Now I put number formatting and I change that. And maybe, let's say you add some money to your savings account, actually. So this is going to be a kind of expense. So you want to, during this period, let's say you want to add $500 to your savings, your special savings account. So that's going to be an expense, negative 500. Make it money sign, make it red. Okay? And then you want to, at the end, you want to see balance. So I'm going to write balance here. Now I like to separate. But once you separate here, it's going to add complications because if I do the way I create a new row the way I did it before, right click all the way on the end here and say, let's say actually I have to do it over the 10 because I want the separation here. So I have insert is always going to insert above. Well, actually that worked out because it was just in between these two boxes, so it didn't screw up my other boxes. So that's nice. So balance is going to be, I'm going to write it over here, and I'm going to write it equals sum, and I don't have to sum just on a single column. I can sum 2 different columns. So I can sum from G5 all the way to H8. G5 to H8. I mean, that is H9 rather. I want to get that last one too. And because these are positive and these are negative, summing them all is just going to work to give us a balance. So and I'm going to select these 2, I'm going to make it bold. So what this indicates to me is that by the end of December 2020, I'm going to have $14,000 as a balance. That includes all my current accounts, my income, and all my expenses that I had. And you can keep building this more and more. So to build another little window, what I'm going to do is you can do it from scratch again, but you can also select the whole window. So left click on the way to the top, hold shift on the keyboard and left click all the way on the bottom with the mouse. And you select this whole box. I'm going to do Control C. It's going to copy this whole thing. And then I'm going to go over here on the side and I'm going to go do Control V. And actually that's not working for me. I'm not really sure why. Let me try again. Control C, click, Control V. Sometimes if you do it twice or 3 times, it gets screwed up, but I did Control C and then Control V, copy and paste, and that worked. Now I want to stretch this a little bit so I can see the information. And I'm going to do some changes here too, because these copied. Now to get out of that highlighted, see how that was highlighted over here? To do that, I just double click on some outside exterior cell. Now I'm going to need to change some information here. So this is going to be January 2021 to June 2021. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months also. So my current account is, I'm going to take from the balance over here. So balance is H. Oops. If every time if you see this, once you click on a cell and you see going to the formula, all you have to do is press enter to make sure that you don't change anything and reaffirms that you want what was there. So I want to know the address of the cell is H11, so I'm going to go to here and I'm going to go H11 because in January 21 I'm going to have this much money. H11, so this appears here. The new income, this is for 6 months. Let's suppose you're still making $3,000 a month, but this is only for 6 months, so I'm going to write 6 over here, hit enter. So in this 6-month period, you're going to make $18,000. Monthly expenses, I still going to use the G21 here, but instead of times 7, I'm going to do G21 times 6. I'm not really sure why it's giving me nothing here. Let's see why. G21 times 6, hit enter. G20, not G, I'm sorry, something's wrong. This is not G21, this is C21. And here I had C21, so it's not G, it's C21 times 6. Special trip, so maybe you have some special trip and it's going to cost you, maybe this time it's going to be 3,000, and you're going to put some money into savings. Notice that you can do different things here, and so on. Like if you add some other information, let's say medical bills, medical expense, you have a medical procedure coming up, and you're going to need to spend some money. And let's say, it's $3,000. So equals negative, equals negative 3,000. $3,000. And then here we're going to make sure that it's covering everything. See, if I just click on it, and then I like to click on it here and then click on the formula bar, and then you can see the highlighted area. It's not including everything, so we need to do L via L10, K5 through L10. Doesn't have to be capitalized. Hit enter. Now notice how we have a space here. Everywhere we have a space here, we have a space here. Here we don't have a space. And what if you also wanted to add more information here? So if you want to add more rows here and information here, you could do the similar method we did before. Right click all the way on the left and insert. Oh, we want to add actually on the balance level. Do you want to replace it? No, cancel. Here on 11, insert. Right click all the way, highlights everything, and insert. Now here I have 2 double ones, you see, because it affects the whole thing. Now if you don't mind that, then it's fine. Otherwise, there's other ways to do it too. You can kind of just drag. So if you select a cell and you go on the border of the cell, you left click on the border of the cell, and then you can kind of move this around. Like left click on the border of the cell, and you can see how it moves around. So you can move it down. The thing is, if you move it down, you may screw up the border. So you have to move down these 2. You can select the 2 together, select one, then shift, select the other. Go to the border, left click on the mouse or the laptop, and then just move it down to where you want it. That's another way to increase the size of the box. Now you're gonna have your border is missing here, but you can add the border by going to the border, the font, and the other border properties, and just add the left border. Now I only added instead of a thick border, I added a thin border, but I can go there and change it again by going to border, line color, line style. I want the thicker one, and then I'm just gonna press left, and then that should give me, and then I go to the other one, and then I should be able to just press. Notice how if you double click and you go inside the cell, you can't really change anything here because it's expecting a formula or some actual letters or numbers. But so you just have to click once. So we're talking about the overall cell properties, not the formula. I'm gonna go here because we already selected line style to be the thick one. It's gonna remain there, and we're just gonna add right border, and then it closed over here. Now, you can also do other things. So for example, if you want to sum up all the savings that you had, so suppose that every 6 months you had 500 your savings, you can have special savings box here, savings, and you can add that up. So for example, equals H9 plus AL9. So these two here. Now these are going to be negative numbers because they're written as negative here. So what you want to do maybe is actually use it's called an absolute function. So absolute function just takes the negative number and turns it into positive. So there is one, it's called ABS, returns the absolute value of a number. So ABS of H9 plus, and this is how, look at the format here, you need the parentheses, the value, the cell location is inside, and then you have to write it out. There are different ways to do it. This is one way to do it, L9. So here there's savings, and you can highlight this differently. You know, you can put some color, like fill color, maybe make it green. So these are your total savings at the end of your plan. And also other things you can do, for example, if this is bothering you, you want to move it, you select all the way on the top left, and then shift, select top right, so you select the whole box. Go to the border, you see this, the icon changes shape from here to here. The mouse icon changes shape. Once it's like this on the border, you can select with the left click of the mouse or the left click of the laptop, and then just drag it up. The operation will cause some merged cells to unmerge. Do you wish to continue? Okay, unmerged. Unmerge the 3 cells here, that's fine. Select the 3 again, go to merge and center, and they're back. So this is a basic way of creating your personal budget plan. There are different ways to do it. From this, you can extend farther in time, but now you can see and you can plan how much money you have incoming and how much expenses you have. And if something changes, so for example, let's say that your car payment has increased or decreased, and you just change it over here, your monthly expenses have changed somehow, then you will propagate through the boxes because we're using cell references, right? So we only change the value in one place or just a few places, and it propagates. So if you want to know if you have a special trip, maybe your special trip next year is going to cost maybe $5,000. So you can see what that impact is going to do to your overall balance of money by the end of some future date. Hope this helped and is useful.